This is Speaking with the Enemy on the Ticats Audio Network. Here is Louie Butko.
Yes, the show is Speaking with the Enemy. The Enemy this week, the BC Lions, as the Hamilton Tiger Cats head west to BC Place, and head west we go. And that's where we find Matt Baker. He is the manager of communications and content with the BC Lions. And Matt, always appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much for doing this. Let's jump right into it. These BC Lions really an up and down last few weeks here.
Yeah, got some money in the bank early with some big wins. I mean, everyone will point back to that Week 3 win in Winnipeg and how they just completely dominated the Bombers in all three phases. Not surprised they won that one, but maybe in the fashion that they did, perhaps. But yeah, a bit of a rut here these last couple of weeks, and I think it's just a classic case, if you're referring to the Saskatchewan game on Sunday. That was a desperate team. I mean, you look at the standings now, the Riders basically had to have that one in order to sort of stay in this race for a top 2 spot in the West. It's been us and Winnipeg pretty much the first half of the season, but Saskatchewan all of a sudden trying to knock on the door. But yeah, overall 7-3. If you would have told this group that at the start of the year, I think they would have been pretty satisfied, despite a couple losses in the last 3 weeks of the year, including a return matchup in Winnipeg that didn't go too well.
Yeah, we don't have to spend too much time on that, but I do want to talk about Vernon Adams Jr. Let's start there. A former Hamilton Tiger Cat, brief stint here in Hamilton, but one of those guys who's bounced around the league, for whatever reason. But I think there were some questions coming into this season, like, was he ready to be the number one guy? Is he a number one guy? It seems like, despite an injury this year, it seems like he has really arrived as a QB1 in the CFL. Is that fair?
Well, I wouldn't say I would say he already had arrived. I mean, people forget this was an Eastern All-Star in 2019 with Montreal, right? But now, granted, since then we've had the pandemic. He's been traded. Maybe people view it as Montreal choosing Trevor Harris over him. I don't know what went inside there, but the sample size was there, right, as recently as 2019. And I'll tell you a quick story. I mean, this is a guy who came in last season under not the easiest circumstances. Remember Nathan Rourke taking the CFL world by storm and was on pace to break all of Doug Flutie's 32-year-old records before he got hurt. And that's not an easy situation for an outsider coming in via trade, but this is a guy who commanded the respect of the locker room right away, became a leader. Without Vernon Adams Jr., this team doesn't host or win a playoff game last year. I mean, I can tell you that much. So I'm not surprised to see, and it is remarkable. You look at the stats. I mean, the games he's started and finishing, he's averaging over 300 yards. Had a season-high 455, came in the loss in Saskatchewan, and it's Vernon Adams, the player is one thing, but the person and the way he sort of came in and immediately gained the respect of the room, that spoke volumes. And we've talked about it before, and yeah, we'll plug our content here. Off-season, he had all the receivers, all the skill guys down in Tacoma, Washington for sort of an informal camp, OTA. There was football and non-football activities. That just shows you how he is all in. And yeah, some of his detractors might point to a 6-interception game in Toronto. Bottom line, trailing most of that night, you have to try and stretch the field and get quick scores like they were trying to do in Saskatchewan on Sunday. So yeah, very, very, very good to see Vernon performing up to that standard.
And again, another name that Hamilton Tiger Cats fans are used to or are familiar with, Dane Evans, who really has embraced a backup role in BC. I've spoken to him, just casually, just over the last few months since his time in BC. I know he's really enjoying it. And again, to embrace that number 2 role, like, he's there to push Vernon. He knows that. But how has he adjusted to his role in BC as well?
Could not have been better. You guys know him, your listeners and viewers here. what you see on camera, what you see in the interviews, that's what you see when the camera's not rolling. And yeah, I mean, a guy who had led Hamilton to a couple of recent Grey Cup appearances, and for whatever reason on the trade market there wasn't that starting opportunity, but yeah, he's come in here and he's played the role to a T, and we saw how valuable the trade was just a few weeks ago with Vernon going down early against Saskatchewan, and Dane came in and essentially was the quarterback of record that game. Engineered the only touchdown drive they had. It was kind of a scrappy 19-9 win, and unfortunately the next week, if he's able to finish in Winnipeg, who knows? It's certainly maybe a little bit closer, and that's no disrespect to anyone else, because injuries are unfortunately a part of it. But yeah, I did not know Dane Evans at all, but I've loved getting to know him and seeing how he's embraced this new role here on the West Coast.
How motivated are the Lions this week to bounce back from Sunday? I mean, a bit of a shorter week for them. What is the mindset of this team? Have they already put that game in the past? Their focus, as we hear a lot on in the windshield, not the rearview mirror. How motivated though are they to put that game behind them?
Yeah, Rick Campbell is consistent in his message, and I'm sure it's not too different than any other head coach in this game, in this league. No matter what the result, you think about it for 24 hours, and then you flush it. So, had a post-game flight home, was pretty quiet. Guys were in Monday for treatment and other things, and didn't get back to practice until Wednesday of this week. So, maybe that speaks to a little bit banged up they've gotten here over the grind of the first half of this season. So I think scaling back the first day of practice, bodies are hopefully going to be fresher. But yeah, this is a team that hasn't lost. They've only lost 2 in a row once in the last 29 games. That's dating back to 2021. So, and that's a credit to that mindset working. They don't dwell on what happened the week before. And yeah, I think being back home where they've played extremely well this season, that should be all the motivation that this team needs.
4-0 at home. A shout out to my boy Riley Nish, who I know sells tickets for the BC Lions to get people in that building. Good pal of mine, but Amar Doman has also been doing a great job getting people in that building. What have you noticed in your time, in this Amar Doman era of getting people in the seats? What has been the success to helping fill BC Place? We know it's a big stadium, but we've seen the numbers. The CFL put out some numbers about in the 3 biggest markets they're seeing tremendous growth. BC obviously being a huge part of that. But what have you noticed, Matt, when it comes to the atmosphere at BC Place and really making it a destination more than just outside the game?
First of all, if Riley doesn't win the sales competition after the plug on the Ticats audio network, then he's really got to step his game up, okay? I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, no, Amar, yeah, speaking about Dane Evans and what you see is what you get. Same thing with Mr. Doman. The big thing in this market, it's maybe a little unique. Well, certainly not unique to the 3 biggest markets, Toronto and Montreal being the others there when you talk about that. You have to have a presence downtown. Big thing for me as a guy who's pretty much born and raised here in the Lower Mainland. The demographics of the city have changed considerably, and the cost of living. People living around BC Place and downtown aren't necessarily the type of people who've been exposed to CFL football. So when it's a non-game day, there's no presence. So you've seen an investment in that regard. You see banners out in the city. Game day, the mantra is the experience starts when you leave your door to come to BC Place. So our backyard street party's been a major hit every home game this year. This week, to go with the Tiger Cat theme, we're calling it the Hammer Fest. There may or I don't want to start rumors. There may or may not be a Tiger Cat logo piñata for fans to hit. I don't know. Don't want to cause any stir the pot here, get anyone motivated, but. It's having a presence in the community. We're out at a lot more community football events. Summertime, our merch trailer makes random pop-up appearances at Kitts Beach, the Vancouver Art Gallery, center of the downtown entertainment district. That's what you have to do, and credit to him, when he first bought the team, one of the things he was blunt about is, I see more NFL merchandise than BC Lions merchandise, and it ticks me off. I'm taking the words right out of his mouth, so... he's backed that up. It's just having a better presence out in the community and making game day more than just the 3 hours when football's being played. Any Hamiltonians watching, coming out, making the trip, get to Terry Fox Plaza at noon, because you'll see firsthand just how cool these pregame tailgates are.
I want to talk to you about Lucky Whitehead, obviously a player that took the league by storm. But how is he kind of adjusting to being a household name in the CFL? Is he rose to the occasion? Has it been an adjustment? But what have you seen from number 7?
Yeah, I say he's definitely risen to the occasion. It was one of those, he comes over in free agency after being a part of that Blue Bombers, that first Grey Cup team in 2019. It was just a classic case of, it was a hard time for him to get on the field because of all the players they had there. And he has definitely stepped up and been that number one receiver that he's capable of being. The only thing that's derailed him has been injuries. Unfortunately, the ankle last year kept him out of the entire playoff run, and you can tell that was eating at him not being out there. Again, he sat out, missed a couple of games with the hamstring this year, but each game, kind of slowly but surely, he's become more of a go-to guy. He had a 100-yard performance, or close to it at least, last week, the big touchdown to make things interesting in the fourth quarter. Yeah, that's a guy who can change field position, change the momentum at the drop of a hat, one play, as we saw. So, and it's great for him. He's a great character. He loves doing the entrances and the social media stuff. That's all fine and dandy, but need him producing on the field, and he's gotten slowly but surely better since recovering from his hamstring.
James Butler making his return back to BC. I know you got to work with him in your role last year. How motivated do you think he's going to be to step on the field at BC Place?
Oh, yeah. Knowing him like I do, he'll downplay it. I haven't watched too much of the Ticats interviews this week, but I'm sure he's downplaying it. But deep down inside, all these guys want to prove their old team wrong. And I'll tell you what, Louie, that's going to be a big key to success for this Lions defense. That's where when that run stopping and they're not able to slow that down, that's when they've struggled, when they haven't been able to force teams into second and long. And Taylor Powell, another quarterback without as much experience, they're going to want to force him into more difficult situations. But yeah, I think James will be good to go, and I think he's going to be a big key to Hamilton's success if they hope to come out of here with a win. But it's a good thing the Lions probably getting a couple reinforcements back on the defensive line, talking about Woody Barron, who was out last week. That's going to be key. So, I'm not surprised to see Butler on pace for over 1,000 again, because we know what he's capable of.
Yeah, there's a reason the Ticats went out and got him, and he's showing them he was worth every penny, at least last few weeks, but definitely so far this season. I got to thank you. I don't know if I got to thank you personally, but the 4 o'clock kickoff, BC time, absolutely love, Matt. I absolutely love it. The 7 o'clock Eastern time, that is when the Ticats take on the BC Lions. Matt, I know you'll be there, so thanks so much for setting it up for us. Really appreciate it.
Anytime. And hey, this guy loves the 4 o'clock starts too, because in summertime, once we leave the stadium, 9:30, it's not even dark out yet. So.
Oh, you got to rub it in. You and you BC people, you got to rub it in. And hey, the mountain air is not good enough. You got to rub it in.
Talk to me in a couple months when it's dark and cloudy. We do this again before we come there in October. I'm sure the weather will be different.
That's how it works. Matt Baker, thank you for being my guest here today on Speaking with the Enemy.
Anytime.